Story 1. Is my ghosted ex-wife possibly tracking me down? I headed to the hills after learning of my wife's affair. I don't exactly know why I'm writing this, but now that the events are over and done, and I've moved on, maybe it will help someone. In February 2018, I discovered my wife's affair after we had been married for 3.5 years. I had a contract job that involved a lot of travel at times, but also allowed me to work from home when I was back. My wife had a very well-paying job as a director of a technical sales firm. We had what I would describe as a really good marriage, although things had gotten a bit strained from my being away on work trips and working longer and longer hours. Backstory. I met my wife, now ex, 5 years ago at a mutual friend's barbecue. We struck up a conversation and had an instant chemistry. And quite honestly, I thought I was beating the odds being with such a beautiful and well-spoken woman. Somehow, she really liked me for my rough-around-the-edges persona. Once we started dating, after a few weeks, we couldn't get enough of each other. And the clothes just flew off when we would meet at each other's apartments. We finally tied the knot after dating for 18 months and moved into a big apartment while saving for a house. After the first 3 years of marriage, things started changing. I still was crazy about her, but I noticed she would start arguments about little things, and she would get angry when I would bring up all the late hours and the work outings that had been more and more frequent. She would say it's part of paying the dues since she had been climbing the corporate ladder, or at least that was her excuse. She told me I had no right to question her since I was gone for weeks at a time myself. I had told her I could certainly manage to reduce my travel hours, and it had actually only been going on trips maybe 3 or 4 days every 5 weeks or so. These arguments were very circular and never had a resolution. As I look back, I had no idea my wife was in the midst of an affair. I would have never suspected a thing, except for her continued late work hours and our dwindling sex life. I just attributed this to her being tired from work. However, my ego had taken a beating from being turned down frequently when trying to initiate sex. I didn't see the secret texting that I read about, but then again, she had a company cell phone, and she could have been using it since she spent a lot of time in our spare bedroom that she would use as a home office. It was around September of 2017 when Kathy started coming home after work and then head off to a work engagement for the evening. This went from 1 evening a week to more than 3 evenings a week. I'm not that jealous by nature, but there is no way she would go unnoticed, and I know she would have to fend off some of the men at her office. She only seemed to be interested in work, but she was working with more male executives than female. My first suspicion of her cheating occurred a month before D-Day. She had stopped off at the store before coming home. She asked me to help with the groceries while I was grabbing a couple of bags from the back seat of her car. I noticed something pink glinting from just underneath the front passenger seat. It was one of my wife's bras. I recognized it as hers since she liked the ones from a particular apparel store. In retrospect, I now realize the reason for the red flag with a bra. When she gets in the mood, she always takes off her bra first from underneath her clothes. I don't know exactly why, but I instantly just had a sinking feeling in my gut when I saw this. I could not rationalize what her bra was doing under the seat. I just left it there under the seat. It almost made me sick, and my heart must have been racing like crazy because when I returned to the kitchen with the bags, Kathy asked if I was okay and that I looked like I'd seen a ghost. I just brushed her comment off. I tried my best not to look angry or betrayed, but it took all I had to hide my feelings that evening and the next. I decided to see if I could find out if she was involved with someone or not. I started thinking about all the clues I was missing. I had no proof except for the bra. Instead, we live in a fairly large city, and her work is in a downtown office building. I kind of took my focus off of the affair idea for a bit and decided maybe I should give her more attention. One Friday after work, I made a nice dinner and set up the dining table with nice plates, silverware, and candles. I bought a nice bottle of wine and a bouquet of roses. She came breezing in after work as usual. I pointed out the dinner and everything I had prepared. She gave me a sad smile and told me she was sorry, but she had plans to meet up with her coworkers tonight at a local hangout. She said she could grab a quick bite with me before she left but had to jump in the shower first. I think my insides flipped on me, and I became completely speechless. I won't tell you what kind of rage I was feeling at that point, but I had finally had enough. While she was in the shower, I grabbed my company cell phone and planted it in her back seat. I had been thinking of this lately as a way I could track her location with my personal phone. I went in and dumped the meal in the trash along with the flowers. She came back after her shower, dressed up and looking great as usual. She said, "Okay, let's eat." I told her, "Never mind, go out with your friends." She looked at me strangely and asked if I was mad. I said, "I'm disappointed by you never wanting to do anything together." She became angry and told me to quit acting like a child and said something snarky about having a short fuse. I stood there letting all this sink in and said, "Foolish me, I thought you'd like to spend the evening together for once." She just smirked at me and left in a huff. I took out my other phone and started tracking my work phone. I saw her stop about 20 minutes away at the bar that she frequents with her work buddies. I decided to head out and locate her car. Sure enough, there it was in the parking lot of the bar. I sat across the street in my car waiting to see if I could see her. I felt so unlike myself, like a stalker, but I rationalized I needed to at least satisfy my anxiety about her whereabouts. About an hour after I arrive, I saw her coming out of the bar with a man. He looks like one of the execs I've seen from her work. He grabs her and pulls her close and kisses her. My stomach went into knots. My body went completely numb. They head over to another car and get in together. I do my best to follow them as the car pulls out. They travel about 10 minutes away to, you guessed it, a hotel. I pull over on the street next to the hotel. I watch as they get out and head hand in hand into the hotel. I've seen enough. I'm an idiot. I start banging my fist on the steering wheel. That's it. Something inside me went completely blank, and I'm not sure if I blacked out or had an out-of-body experience. When I recovered myself, I decided I needed a drink. Now, this is when my life took a new direction that I would have never guessed. I just started driving out of town, just reliving everything I had just witnessed, and I hate to say it, crying with rage. I headed towards the outskirts of town, about 30 miles. I find a nice little bar and pull in. I find a seat at the bar and order a drink. I must have looked like death warmed over because the bartender, a female, mentioned that I looked like someone took the wind out of my sails. I smiled and said, "You could say that." A guy takes a stool next to me and starts up a conversation. I'm not in much of a mood to talk, but something about this guy just made me feel comfortable. We start talking, and after a while, the subject of my wife cheating just tumbles out of my mind. How I just want to leave her and forget her. He looks at me and slaps me on the back. He says, "Buddy, you are not alone. That happened to me a few years ago. I believe that sometimes these things happen for a reason, and let me tell you, your life can now change either for the better or the worse. It's entirely up to you at this point." Something about him saying this really shook me out of my glum mood. I mean, I know I'm hurting, but I've always been able to see things logically, and he is so right. Now, we introduce each other. His name is Ray. He is kind of a country guy, but he is just the sort of salt-of-the-earth type that I really respect. He asks me when I'm going to move out. I guess it never occurred to me to even think that far ahead. I know I don't want to be around this woman anymore, and I do have this fight-or-flight feeling coursing through me. Ray says, "I feel very sympathetic to your situation and have an idea. If it comes to it and you feel like you need to leave at some point, I've got a travel trailer sitting on my property. It's not great, and it could use a bit of fixing up. Why don't you come out and check it out and see if you could see yourself living in something like that temporarily, at least? I'll give you a great deal on it. I even have a nice piece of property that you could park it on. You would be doing me a favor to keep an eye on it for me. It might do some good to get away from your situation." Just a thought. Took me a minute to register his idea. The bartender had overheard the conversation and smiled. "Hell, honey," she says. "If I could have escaped my crazy ex-husband years ago, I would have jumped at the chance to go live in his trailer, or anything, to just get my head on straight. I feel like I have stumbled into the twilight zone, but maybe this is exactly what I need." I tell Ray, "Yes, I'll think about it and maybe check it out." We part ways after a bit and make plans to meet at his place in a few days. I started to feel like I had a little bit of perspective and a chance to get out of what I believe was a nightmare mixed in with a heavy heartache. One thing is for certain. There is no way I'll ever want to be with my wife again. Cheating is such a vile thing to me and has always been the one thing that I believe I would never tolerate. I got home after Kathy that night and sat on the couch. Kathy came out and asked me where I'd been. I turned to her and asked her where she had been. She says, "You know, I went to grab drinks." I asked her point blank, "Are you having an affair?" She looks a little startled but regains her composure and says, "No, why would you ask me that?" I tell her, "I heard she may be involved with someone from work." She asks, "Who told you that?" I tell her, "Someone that I know, but I would not divulge the name." She just tells me, "You are being ridiculous, and that you're drunk and delusional," and asks me where I have been. I tell her, "Out to a bar to have some drinks with friends." She just stares at me, wanting to ask me more, but just heads back to our bedroom and goes back to bed. I decided to sleep on the couch since I now have confirmation that she has been lying to me for months. I didn't sleep at all and started picturing her with this guy in bed, and I was disgusted and hurt and felt sorry for myself. However, I start thinking about the travel trailer. It is almost a revelation, and the idea of it just made me feel better. I must have something wrong with me, but with the pain I was in, the fight or flight mode just instinctively kicked in, and the flight part won me over. The next morning, we don't speak much and go about the weekend as if nothing had happened. A few days later, I made plans to meet up with Ray. I met up at Ray's place. He owns a nice ranch, and the trailer is actually really nice, about 26 foot, and has all the necessities one needs to live in it. I had traveled with some friends and one back in college during a spring break and really enjoyed it. I make Ray an offer on it and he agrees to the price. I practically steal it from him. He gives me directions to his ranch property, and I drive over to check it out. It is beautiful, full of trees and scrub brush, and it looks like there are nearby hiking and biking trails bordering it. It's near the foothills of some mountains, and Ray has a small shack on a hill overlooking the property with water and electricity for the trailer available. Ray will pull the travel trailer to the side and set it up for me. I tried to get Kathy to come clean during the next few weeks, and all I get is gaslighting. I even point blank tell her that if I find out she is cheating, there is no going back. This has the opposite effect of driving her deeper into her affair fog and blistering me in denials. The denial is so bad it almost made me laugh. I have no physical proof of her cheating and kick myself for not at least taking some photos of the two of them as I go through this mental agony. I came to the conclusion that I went out of this marriage rather than let Kathy know how I felt about things. Now I just start making plans. I started stealthily taking my belongings out of the apartment while she was at work and moving them over to the trailer. This at least makes me feel like I'm taking action. I did notice a change in Kathy during this time, and she has been acting nicely around me, but in my mind, too little too late, as she continued her little company outings after work. I decided I too needed a break. In fact, as she was heading out for the evening, I also got dressed around the same time. She looked at me and asked where I was going. I just said I was meeting up with some friends. She started to ask, and I just told her she didn't know them and she wouldn't enjoy all the shop talk. This is exactly what she would tell me when I would ask if I could join her at one of her office outings. She kind of had a hurt look on her face and said, "Okay, have a nice time." I said, "I definitely would." Between working on the trailer and meeting up with Ray at the bar, I have started to make more friends. In fact, it has led to some fun times with a great group of Ray's friends and family, and in case anyone asks, I decided I would moderate my drinking so I don't develop any bad habits. It would be so easy to drown myself in pity about this time frame. Kathy tells me she has to go on a trip for work the following week. I ask her who is all going, and she tells me the executive team and some department heads. I just look at her and tell her, I hope she has a really great time with her boyfriend. I kind of wish I hadn't said that. It started a lot of arguing back and forth. In a lot of ways, I wish I knew more about her AP, but as Ray put it to me, in the long run, it doesn't matter who the other guy is. It only matters that she decided to step out on you. She burned down the marriage. She can own it or deny it, but facts are facts, brother. Damn, Ray should write this stuff down and publish it for the betrayed. Her work trip provided me with the opportunity to move the rest of my stuff out completely. So after Kathy left for a trip, I gathered everything I had left of any value and put it in my vehicle. I'm not taking any furniture or the like, so it's just clothes and computers and equipment. Before I left, I had written a note that I was going to leave for her, but after rereading it, I decided I would just make it simple. I grabbed a piece of paper and wrote, "I hope it was worth it." I placed my wedding ring on top of the note, sitting on the kitchen table. I felt a huge weight come off of me. I felt free. No more hiding the truth. I know I will have some baggage to deal with and some hurt to get over, but I have time to heal now. I just need some space. I need to get her out of my life as quietly and quickly as possible. I'm not proud that I never confronted her more, pulled a confession out of her. I never got to yell and scream and curse her after confessing. I had come to the conclusion in my mind that she didn't deserve me. She disrespected everything we had. Our future plans are history. We were saving for a house and a future family. All of that is gone now. No going back. I don't owe her a damn thing. She can deal with the fallout aftermath. I didn't have an agenda at all. I didn't contact a lawyer or anything. I just wanted to get some clarity. I really enjoyed my new trailer, and the mountainous air was exactly what I needed. In the following week, I took up running again, and it felt great to be alive. I never answered any of Kathy's texts while she was away. There wasn't much to respond to. They were just highlights like, "We just landed. We are having a team dinner," etc. She did send a few, "Where are you? Let me hear from you," etc. The day she returned home, my phone blew up. She texted me incessantly and tried calling me constantly. After the first day, her mother tried calling me. There's only my dad left on my family side, and we aren't close, so she didn't try to get him involved. After the first few crying messages, I never bothered to listen to the rest of her voicemails. Her texts consisted of, "What is this? We need to talk. I don't know what you think you know, but there is nothing going on. I'm not involved with anyone. I'm not having an affair." After a week of not responding, she finally leaves me a text saying, "I'm sorry things got out of hand. I was involved with someone at work, but it meant nothing. I got caught up in my work and you were gone a lot and I just made a mistake. I was going to end it. Haha. Mistake." This was the confession I had been seeking all along. For some reason, it just made me dislike her even more. Why couldn't she be honest? This wasn't the woman I had dreamed of building a future together with. And mistakes don't last for 6, 8 months or a year. At one point, her pleading for me to come back and work on the marriage became pathetic. She quit bothering me for a couple of weeks. I still refused to answer her. I did not want her to pry anything out of me, where I was living. I did not want this woman ruining my sanctuary. Then one day, she started sending me angry texts like, "You were a coward. You won't talk to me. You don't care about us. Please come home so we can talk. Where are you? I can come to you. Damn it, Paul. Please let's talk and fix things." I don't remember all the messages, but they all seemed to be excuses and very little in the way of apologies. I let it all go in one ear and out the other. I finally changed my cell phone number. Update 1, June 2018. Kathy sent me an email telling me she had retained a lawyer and was filing for divorce. I sent her a reply that said, "Okay, sounds good." This resulted in a flurry of emails demanding I come to see her and so forth. She realized this wouldn't get her anywhere, and after a while, she just wrote that if I agreed to an uncontested divorce, she wouldn't bother me anymore. I agreed, and several months later, finally, I was truly a free man. I never had to see her after I left our apartment. No closure for either of us, but it seemed like that was more important to her than to me. For a few months, I did think of her sometimes, and yes, the pain would appear out of nowhere, like if I heard a song come on the radio that we used to listen to, etc. But eventually, I just stopped thinking about her. Update 2. Well, I am officially divorced. Things are really good now. As a matter of fact, I met a great girl. I was out on a run on the trail just down the hill from where I live. I helped her change a flat tire, and we really hit it off. She is amazing and cute as hell, though a few years younger than me. She loves my lifestyle and calls me her mountain man. I'm in no hurry to get serious, but I'm not about to give up on women completely. I'm still up here in the trailer. I have no plans to change anytime soon, and I've simplified my life quite a bit. I love the outdoors. It helped me get over my ex-wife, the heartache, everything. I know everyone handles these things differently. I was lucky to not have children yet and was only into my 3rd year of marriage, so I think I did what was right for me. You don't have to live your life with a cheater. If something like this happens to you, please just don't dwell on it. Just move on with your life. It gets better after you work on yourself. I wish everyone the best life they can have. Just wanted to update you on the situation I found myself in with my ex-wife, and I have rewritten this about 5 times to make it legible. As mentioned in my previous post, I was concerned that my ex-wife was trying to track me down in an attempt to reconcile or something. I had moved some 2 hours from where we used to live. I saw her last weekend in a coffee shop I go to frequently in the town that is near to where I live. I was suspicious that it was not a coincidence that she was there. Luckily, I was able to leave before she saw me. Update 3. I came back into town this past weekend to grab a few groceries and went to grab a coffee in the place I usually go to, as well as work on some documents I needed to fill out for work using their free internet. After finishing up, I left the coffee shop. While I'm walking towards my truck, I hear someone yell, "Paul!" I look across the street, and oh, there's Kathy, my ex, waving at me. Armageddon had finally happened. I stood there in shock. She runs across the street and approaches me and reaches out to me, expecting a hug, and I instinctively hold my arms out with palms out, and she stops. She looks at me, really hurt. She then says, "Paul, I've been looking for you. I heard you moved out here and wanted to see you. Can we talk?" I feel like a trapped animal, guys. I really did. So I relented and said, "Okay, let's find a table or something, and we can talk for a minute." She asked if we could go to my place, and I just flat out said, "No." She follows me down to a bench outside a little shop at the end of the block. She starts by saying how much I've changed and how she loves my new look, my beard, blah blah. She liked how my physique had changed, how I looked so fit. She puts on a good act, and guys, she looked hot. She had on these little white shorts and a tank top, and her hair in a ponytail like I used to like. My radar was on high alert, and I could tell she was really turning on the sex appeal. I had to really rein myself in here and see where this was going. She starts out by apologizing about the whole affair thing. She says karma really hit her hard after I left. Her company learned of her affair and basically made things so unpleasant that she quit. Her AP, who had a fiancé at the time, got a reprimand and was moved to another position within the company. He blamed her for us having to move, and she retaliated by telling his fiancé everything, which resulted in them breaking up. She lowered her head a little and started crying. I just sat there looking around, not having anything to say. She straightened up and stared at me for a bit. I asked her what she wanted from me. She wanted to tell me that she never intended to start an affair, that she felt like she was drawn in by all the politics and positioning in the company, and thought the AP really manipulated her with his charisma and power within the company, and that she stupidly thought she was using him as much as he was using her. She was going to come clean with me, especially after I accused her of having an affair. She hated herself during that time, and the after-work drinking was her attempt to medicate from the guilt. That right after I left her, she felt so foolish, so alone, like her heart just imploded with loss. She immediately broke things off with her AP. She felt that since I wouldn't contact her or talk to her, she had to find me and see if she could make things right for us, and if we could start over again. She knows we are divorced, but maybe we could have a clean slate. I just stared at her. I let her have it. I'm paraphrasing the conversation, but here it is. How dare you think you can just come out here and think you can just wipe away all the things you caused? I'm to forgive everything you did to ruin our marriage? I told you before, if you cheated on me, we were through. There is no forgiveness. There is no reboot of this relationship. You killed it. You destroyed what we had the minute you stepped out on me. How stupid do you think I am? I followed you one night and saw you go into a hotel together. Do you know that? I then realized that I've been raising my voice, and people were starting to notice. She started to sob. She grabbed my arm. I let her cry on my shoulder a little before nudging her away. She looked up at me. I deserve all this. I know I do. Can you at least let me take you to dinner or something? I don't want to leave. I want to talk more. I want to make sure we have everything out in the open. I need time with you that you didn't give me before. Please, Paul. I know you may not want to hear this, but I love you so much. I didn't know how much I loved you until you left me and broke me, and I broke you just as bad. I can't forgive myself. I don't want to forgive myself until the day I die. She started hyperventilating and sobbing so bad that I pulled her up and hugged her. I know. I felt like that was the only thing I could do to maybe calm her down at that moment. I realized I did actually break her heart. Like she broke mine. I started walking with her and then found a nice quiet path to walk on, and things settled down a bit. I then asked her how she found me, and did she hire a PI or something? She laughed a little and said, no. She thought about it though. She ran into Stacy a couple of weeks ago, and she asked her how things were going. Stacy let it slip that she saw me. Kathy made her spill every single detail. Stacy didn't want to tell her because I told her not to, but she wouldn't let her go until she did. But all she really knew was that she saw me here in town and that I lived somewhere in the vicinity, so she started coming here on her days off to see if she could find me. She really blushed when she said that. I kind of chuckled. That damn Stacy can't keep her trap shut. So we did go to dinner. We found a nice little place with a patio. I made sure we didn't drink anything. I didn't want any excuse for her to soften me up. Her claim she was too drunk to drive back. We actually had a good talk afterwards. I walked her to her car. She wanted to stay and press me hard on it and wouldn't relent. She hadn't been with anybody else since I left and swore up and down I was the only one she wanted. I told her, no, it's still way too soon for me to go down that road. She begged to see me again, but I was not committal. I gave her my new email address, but that was it. She wanted my phone number, but I told her, no, you'll just blow it up with texts and calls. She cried about that one. She said she would be back in town next weekend if I was interested. I didn't say anything to that. She said she will email me and tell me all the details of when/where before she left. I asked her point blank if she would forgive me if I had done the cheating. She sat there thinking, and she said, yes, she would in time, but only if we saw a marriage counselor or if we could work through the healing process with lots of talking and maybe even a binding agreement. I said, okay, maybe I could do that 5-10 years from now. She said, if that's what it would take, she would wait. She then took my hands in hers, looked me in the eye, and said something that really surprised me. She said, God damn it, Paul. I will always love you and will do anything to prove it. She left. I'm still so shook by that. She said it with such conviction. I still can't see myself back with her. I feel better though, right now. I can't even see her as a friends with benefits, maybe a friend, but damn, I just don't know if we could ever work out again. Don't call me a chump because second chances are rare in my book. I went home and had a nice long run and a few beers and felt I was in a good place now. Can someone guarantee me that she wouldn't ruin that? I don't know. I just don't know. It's too fresh on my mind, but I have the luxury of time to sort all this out and get some perspective. Okay, so this will probably be my last update. I posted my story on Reddit, but the mod kept removing it. To recap, my ex-wife did find me, and we did talk after over a year of her being ghosted by me. Her intention in finding me was indeed to reconcile and restart our life together. To those that wrote to me predicting that I would be the typical beta blue pill fool and forgive her and fall back in with her, you will be sorely disappointed. She did write me a long email this past week professing her love and regret for the affair once again. She wanted to come back out and spend the weekend with me. My response to all this was to shut her down. I have been perfectly content to live the solo life for now, living in my remote location and keep my situation as uncomplicated as possible. I've enjoyed the company of several women and friends, and at 32, feel there is no hurry in changing things up. I have my own self-determination roadmap, and I intend to follow it for now. So in answering her email, I refused to give her my new phone number. I laid it all out. I told her, no, I do not have any intention in reconciling with her. She made her bed, and I no longer trust her, nor do I know her any longer. I wish her the best and will consider her a possible friend maybe someday in a future yet to be determined. My vagueness really frustrated her, so she replied with something very telling. She was, of course, thoroughly disappointed in my response, but she also informed me that she had accepted a job offer several states away, and her real intention all along was for me to come with her. She knows my job is remote and I can live anywhere I choose, and she thought that I would consider coming with her in exchange. We would have a brand new start in a brand new location. She had little time left before she would be leaving and wanted to see me in person and put the hard sell on me. Fortunately for me, I have to leave for business for a week, so our time is up. Thank God. So she will be gone from my life now. I imagine I will get a few more emails for a bit longer, but in time, I believe she will realize her time with me has expired, and she will have to find someone else. And she may cheat on them too. Just thought I would share the update. So guys, live your best life, get rid of that old baggage, and empower yourself to move forward. Good luck to you all. Now on to the next story. Story 2. Before we start, if you're enjoying this video so far, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel. Now let's continue. My fiancé cheated on me at 8 months pregnant. I've been engaged to my fiancé for about a year. Before this situation happened, our relationship was fantastic. We weren't perfect, but it was the best I'd felt in a relationship for quite some time. So when I found out I was pregnant on my birthday, I was overjoyed to share the news with my fiancé, as he's been making it very known he wanted kids with me, specifically a son. He would only say that he wanted a son, so you can imagine his utter disappointment when we found out our miracle baby was in fact a baby girl and not the perfect little boy he'd been dreaming of. To say things went downhill from there would be an understatement. It started with him hiding his phone and always taking it with him wherever he went. He never left it unattended near me, not even if the battery was low or if it had died. Then it escalated to him always typing on his phone or taking his glasses off in order to pose at a screen, to which he would tell me he was just playing with camera filters, and I was stupid enough to believe him. Around the time I was 6 months pregnant, his phone was broken beyond repair, and he was given a backup phone to use from his brother-in-law until he could get his iPhone fixed or replaced. The backup phone was an Android, and if you know anything about iPhones, then you know that he basically lost his email, Facebook, and pretty much all of his other social media accounts. It didn't help that he had two-factor authentication on all of his socials and his email, so he had to start fresh on the temporary phone. He and I have a rule that we follow each other on all of our socials, even our backups and burner accounts. That rule was mostly for me because I have 2 personal TikTok accounts along with a professional one. He admitted to making a new Instagram, email, and TikTok account, which he openly gave me the username for so I could follow them. He made it very clear he had no interest in making a Snap, as he saw no use for it at this point in time. So you can imagine my surprise when I started seeing Snap notifications about a month ago. Don't get me wrong, I wouldn't have been mad except that he kept insisting that he didn't have Snapchat on that phone and it was probably his brother-in-law's account. I didn't believe him but chalked it up to pregnancy hormones until I woke up at 4 a.m. to his phone's consistent buzzing with Snapchat notifications. I grabbed it and went to the basement to get through the notifications because I just had a gut feeling he wasn't being honest. I didn't even make it 5 minutes before I not only found out about a secret Snap account, but he had also been texting several girls looking for a fun night. Our intimate life was better than it's ever been before I got pregnant, so this came as an absolute shock. There was one conversation that stood out to me. I read the whole chat history and immediately started seeing red. Not only has he been talking to her for the entire time he's had the borrowed phone, but they got into a romantic relationship not long after and have even said, "I love you" to each other. I am now heartbroken, and when I went back to our shared room to confront him, he straight up denied it, even though I had taken screenshots and sent them to my phone and my 2 best friends as backup. Fast forward to the present. The girl found me on social media and told me everything. She even apologized profusely for her part in this, as he had said he was single on the dating app they met on. I confronted him again, and now he's telling his whole family that I'm cheating on him and abusing him because during one of his outbursts, he had put his hands on me and I dealt more damage than he did while defending myself. He had a scratch from where his wired glasses had cut him in the altercation, and the only mark he had for me was a black and purple bite mark on his side from when he tried to dig his knee into my large baby bump. The cause of the argument was that the girl he cheated on me with, Raven, had called him a cheating scumbag for not telling her he had a girlfriend. We still have our good times, but it feels forced, almost like he's trying to be nice to me because someone asked him to be. I'm 5 weeks away from meeting my child, And I don't know if I want a relationship with a man who was trying to start over with another girl while I was literally pregnant with his child. Should I have left before he put his hands on me? Do I just play an 18-year-long game for the sake of my unborn daughter? Now on to the next story. Story 3. So, let me take you back about 9 years. That was when I was still a teenager, 17 years old, and my little brother was just a 10-year-old kid. Around that time, we went through something really tough. Our mom passed away. She had been sick for a really long time with this illness that just wouldn't get better, no matter what. It was a super sad time for us. Fast forward a bit, and my dad decided it was time to start a new chapter, so he got remarried within a year of my mom's passing. This was a huge change for us, but surprisingly, I found myself getting along with my new stepmom and stepbrother. We even had meals together and it felt okay, you know? But then things took a turn on my 18th birthday. My dad told me I had to pack up and leave the house. Felt like a bolt from the blue. Thankfully, my boyfriend was there for me and let me move in with him. College was up next for me, and let me tell you, it wasn't easy. I juggled classes and work almost full-time just to make ends meet and pay for my education. Took me about 4 or 5 years, but I made it through, and guess what? I landed this amazing job as a manager right after graduation. The pay was beyond good. It was fantastic. So good, in fact, that I managed to pay off all my student loans and even started saving up some money. Through all of this, my brother has been my rock. He's pretty much all the family I've got left. Then, out of the blue, in July 2019, he dropped a bombshell on me. Our dad was kicking him out just like he did with me. My boyfriend and I didn't even hesitate. We invited him to move in with us, but we had a few ground rules. No trouble, help out with some chores around the house and keep those grades up. My brother, he nailed it. He even got a job to help out with buying groceries. All this time, we basically had zero chats with our dad, but we kept in touch with our stepbrother. He's been a good friend through everything. Now, when my brother got ready to start college last summer, I made him a deal. I'd cover his college fees as long as he stuck to our rules. And you know what? He's been killing it. Straight A's and just doing awesome. Somehow, the news got back to my dad, stepmom, and stepbrother about me paying for his college. Here's where it gets a bit sticky. My stepbrother is also getting ready to go to college, but they're strapped for cash. It would mean taking on a ton of debt for them, which is tough. Out of nowhere, my stepmom gives me a call and straight up asks if I could pay for my stepbrother's college too. It was a lot to take in for sure. I straight up said nope when they asked me if I'd pay for my stepbrother's college. Don't get me wrong, I'm all in for helping out my real brother because, well, he's my blood, and we've been through a lot together. But when it comes to my stepbrother, it's just not the same vibe for me, you know? Then bam! 4 days ago, it was like my phone turned into a hotline for family drama. We're talking about aunts, uncles, the whole circus, cousins, grandparents, and so on, all hitting me up. They're accusing me of picking favorites like it's some kind of game. My head's been spinning because it feels like they've got me on speed dial, and they're not hitting pause anytime soon. Every time I try to put my foot down and say no, it's like they're not hearing me. Makes me wonder if I've suddenly become the villain in their eyes. Oh, and just to fill you in on a little detail. My stepbrother is still living at home with dad and my stepmom. He hit the big 1-8 in November 2020, so all these folks giving me grief, they're all on my dad's or stepmom's side. As for my mom's side of the family, well, there's nobody left. I reached out to them after I got kicked out, looking for some kind of lifeline, you know? But all I got back was radio silence. Now, all of a sudden, they're all about reaching out. Big shout out to everyone who's dropped comments and awards. Seriously, it's been a bright spot in this whole mess. But get this, a few hours after I spilled the beans online about the situation, I started doing some detective work because something didn't add up. How did they even find out I was covering my brother's college fees? It was supposed to be top secret, just between me, my boyfriend, my brother, and the bank guy. Here's where it gets juicy. Turns out a friend of my stepmom who works in the college admin office decided to play gossip girl and told my stepmom about it. My jaw hit the floor. We're talking major privacy no-no. I was seeing red, and now I'm chatting with my lawyer about suing her for blabbing. But wait, there's more. After I posted my story, I went back and reread all the messages from my extended family, and man, something about them just didn't sit right. It was like this nagging feeling in the back of my mind. Then it hit me. The way they were throwing accusations and blame around, making it seem like I was the one stirring the pot for not paying my stepbrother's way through college. It felt way off base and just added another layer of crazy to the whole situation. So, I decided it was time to clear the air and get everyone on a Zoom call to talk things out. Here's the shocker. After my dad kicked me to the curb, he went around spinning this tale to everyone, making it seem like I just up and left because I felt like it, like as if I woke up one day, thought it'd be fun to bail, and then he plays the disappointed dad card. He did the same song and dance about my bro when he got the boot too. That right there is why none of them ever bothered to hit me up or check in. But here's the kicker. They had nearly a decade, 9 whole years, to reach out to say something, anything really, and they just chose silence. So I hit my limit. I decided it was time to cut them out of my life for good. I went full no-contact mode, blocking them on my phone, social media, and the whole 9 yards. I didn't want to hear from them again. Meanwhile, my dad, stepmom, and stepbrother kept blowing up my phone, trying to get me to listen to change my mind. But after I found out they were spreading lies about me and my brother, I was done. I stopped answering their calls completely and eventually blocked them too. My brother and we had a heart-to-heart and agreed it was best to just cut off all ties with them. It's kind of a bummer, especially about my stepbrother. We were pretty tight, almost like real buds. But when push came to shove, he sided with my dad and stepmom against me. It made me think maybe he was just in it for the cash. If he really cared, wouldn't he have stood up for me or at least stayed neutral? And then they had the nerve to try and make me feel guilty, saying if my stepbrother ends up not landing a decent job, it's somehow on me. But you know what? I'm not buying what they're selling. I had to hustle and figure my own stuff out, without a bit of help from them. They didn't give a rat's about me back then, so why should I stress over them now? The plot twist: my brother, my boyfriend, and I are actually packing up and moving to a new city about 45 minutes away next week. It's like we're hitting the reset button, starting fresh, away from all the noise and drama. It's about turning the page and looking forward to new adventures. You know? We've been plotting this move for what feels like forever, long before all this family drama started stirring up. So, this whole packing up and heading out thing isn't about dodging them or anything close to that. It's just something we've been itching to do for our own reasons. And get this, the folks we're leaving in the dust, they don't have a clue we're moving. And I'm not exactly jumping at the chance to update them on our plans. If they somehow catch wind of it down the line, I couldn't care less. In my book, they've pretty much vanished into thin air. Moving forward, it's just going to be me, my main squeeze, that's my boyfriend, by the way, and my bro, just us 3. Rolling as our own tight-knit crew. Now, I noticed some peeps were wondering about my boyfriend's family situation. So here's the scoop. He's got a pretty big family, but they're all living on the complete opposite side of the globe. Despite being together for a whole decade, I've only had the chance to hang out with them a couple of times. Yeah, it's pretty wild, right? And yo, I really got to say, all the kind messages you all have been sending our way, they mean the world to us. Oh, and just to clear up any confusion, I'm not hanging my hat in the US, and there's literally no one left on my mom's side to call family. I did take a stab at setting the record straight with my extended family, tried to spill the real tea on what went down. But guess what? Out of the whole bunch, only like 2 people actually took my word for it. There's a tiny part of me that thinks maybe, just maybe, me and my stepbrother might find a way to mend fences down the road. But as of right this minute, my head's just not in that game right now. My brother and I are laser-focused on cutting the cord with my dad for good. We're even getting all our ducks in a row with legal stuff, talking wills, emergency plans, the whole 9 yards. It's a bit of a process, but we've got our lawyer on the case, working to get everything sorted. Update 1. Alright, so here's the latest scoop, and man, it's like something straight out of a daytime drama series. After the whole mess with the lawsuit, yep, we took that friend of my stepmom to court for spilling the beans on my paying for my bro's college. Things kind of took a turn for the surreal. We won, by the way, which felt like snagging a tiny victory in the middle of a hurricane of crazy. But just when I thought we could maybe start to chill and put all this family drama on ice, my brother drops this bombshell on me. Out of nowhere, our stepbrother hits him up with this super emotional apology. Turns out the dude was feeling all kinds of wrong about how things went down. He was stuck between a rock and a hard place, trying to juggle loyalty to our dad and stepmom and what he knew in his heart was messed up. So my brother, being the big-hearted guy he is, decides to meet up with him and they have this long, deep chat. My brother comes back kinda shook, saying maybe we got our stepbrother all wrong, that maybe he was just another piece getting moved around in our parents' messed up game, man. Now, I'm sitting there kinda floored, thinking about giving our stepbrother a shot to set things right. We end up having this super awkward meetup, but as we start talking, I can see he's legit sorry. He even offers to chip in for our legal bills with some cash he got from a distant relative's will. It wasn't about the cash, though. It was the fact that he wanted to make things right that kinda started to thaw the ice a bit. Fast forward a bit, and things are like slowly getting less weird with our stepbrother. He's been coming around, pitching in, and trying to be part of the fam in a real way. It's been a trip trying to navigate all these new vibes, but it's also been kind of cool in a way I didn't expect. Then there's the whole circus with my dad and stepmom. After the lawsuit and our big move, they've started sending these letters full of sorry and let's talk. I haven't even thought about hitting them back yet. That's a whole other level of drama I'm not sure I'm ready for. But through all this, my boyfriend and the few fam members who got our backs have been solid as rocks. They're the real MVPs, sticking with us through every twist and turn. And my brother and I, we're tighter than ever, finding new stuff to do together, planning trips, and basically just soaking up the good times after riding out that storm. What's next for us is kind of up in the air. Healing for sure, forgiveness maybe down the line. But one thing's crystal clear. We're the ones writing our story now, choosing who's in it and who's just a footnote. This whole saga has shown us that family isn't just about who you're related to. It's about who's there for you when things get real. And sometimes, it's about giving people a second chance to show they can be part of your story. Now on to the next story. Story 4. My stepsister stole my car and wrecked it, but Dad defended her, so I left, but now she wants to move with me. It's been a whopping 5 years since my dad and my stepsister even bothered to throw a word my way. All because of a whole mess that went down with my car getting wrecked. And now, out of nowhere, they're popping up again, saying they need my help. Can you believe it? When my dad first broke the news that I was going to get a new sister, I was over the moon and excited. I mean, the thought of having more family around sounded pretty sweet, you know? How do people always say having a big family is like the best thing ever? Well, I was ready to have that for myself. But oh boy, I had no clue what I was in for. So, I'm Sarah Tony, just a regular girl trying to navigate through this thing called life. And suddenly, I find myself smack dab in the middle of what feels more like a nightmare than a family. My folks, well, let's just say they were anything but the dream team, even before they decided to call it quits and get a divorce. Our home felt like it was the main stage for the world's loudest and most pointless arguments. They could start a full-blown shouting match over literally the smallest stuff. It got me thinking, did they ever really dig each other? Or was it all just for show? Then, when they finally decided they'd had enough of each other and split up, they came up with this plan that I'd bounce back and forth between them. I'd spend the weekdays with my dad and then the weekends with my mom. My mom was kind of forced into agreeing with this setup since her job was always demanding her attention. Let me tell you, being an only kid and dealing with all that back and forth was the loneliest gig ever, especially right after they split. But just when I thought it couldn't get any weirder, my dad came home one day and was like, "Guess what? You're getting a stepsister and her name's Dara. Oh, and her mom's moving in too." So, just like that, I've got a brand new stepsister who's 22 and a stepmom to boot. Suddenly, this was my new family. I was just hitting the teenage years, 13 to be exact, when my life took a major turn. Not too long after my parents decided they were done with each other and got a divorce, my dad made a quick move and got remarried. That's when my stepmom and her daughter, who we're going to call Dora for the story, barged into my life. It wasn't even a full 3 months after the divorce ink dried that they started calling my place home. Imagine a messed up version of Cinderella minus the glass slippers and fairy godmother, and that's kind of what I was living, except in this story, it felt like I was the ghost haunting the attic or something because my dad acted like I straight up didn't exist anymore. There they were, my dad, his new wife, and Dora, pretending to be the picture-perfect family, leaving me out like last year's Halloween candy. When Dora had a birthday, it was as if the whole world needed to stop and celebrate. My birthday? You'd have better luck remembering a dentist appointment from 2 years ago. My dad treated Dora like she was the president's daughter or something, driving her to school every single day, while I had to hop on the bus like it was no big deal. Dora was like this shining star in their eyes, the so-called perfect daughter, never setting a foot wrong. Me? I felt like I only popped into my dad's mind if there was something to complain about or criticize. It was like being more invisible than I ever thought possible, even more than those days when it was just me and him before all this. And let's not forget about Dora. To my dad and stepmom, I might as well have been a piece of furniture, but Dora noticed me, alright, but not in any kind of good way. She was always on my case, nicking my stuff, making snide comments, and basically wanting anything and everything I had, no matter how small or meaningless it seemed. The only time I felt like someone actually saw me, like really saw me, was when I was with my mom. But even then, she was so caught up in her super demanding job that those moments were few and far between. This whole circus went on for about 3 years. Just like that, I'm just your average teenager trying to make my way through the jungle of high school and home life. But at home, it's like I've turned into a ghost. My dad is pretty much checked out when it comes to me, hardly noticing I'm around. And my stepmom, well, she acts like I'm just another piece of furniture unless she's got a reason to complain. Then there's my stepsister, Dora. Let's just say she's not the loving sister type. More like the make your life miserable for fun type. Trust me, it wasn't exactly the dream family setup. But, I kept my head down and powered through because that's what you do, right? Fast forward to me hitting 16. I've got this fire inside me to do something big, something for myself. So, I land a job and start stashing away every bit of cash I can. I've got this dream of driving my own car, feeling that freedom of hitting the road on my terms. My mom sees me hustling and decides to pitch in, and before you know it, we've got enough saved to buy a car. Felt like a major win. I'm talking about taking care of the insurance, gas, the whole 9 yards, all on my dime because, let's be honest, expecting dad to chip in for anything beyond the bare minimum was like waiting for snow in the Sahara. No sooner had I brought that shiny beacon of freedom home than Dora started circling like a shark that smelled blood. She's all, "Let me borrow your car." Day in and day out, despite having recently turned her own ride into a scrap metal project because she drives like a bat out of hell. I'm no fool. I've seen her track record. So my answer was a big fat no every single time. But Dora, she's got persistence in spades, whining and nagging at me nonstop. Still, I wasn't about to cave. Then one day, I came back from whatever after-school thing I had going on, and my car is AWOL, vanished, poof. Turns out Dora had gone behind my back, sweet-talked my dad into handing over the keys, and took my car out for a joyride without so much as a "buy your leave." She rolls back home at 10 p.m. with my car looking like it's been through a demolition derby and has the gall to act like it's NBD. Fuming, I storm over to my dad, ready for some justice, thinking he's got to see things my way this time. But nope, instead I get a lecture about how I'm the bad guy for not sharing, for being selfish. And then, out of nowhere, my stepmom decides to join the fray. Yeah, the same stepmom who usually pretends I don't exist unless it's to pin something on me. They're both on me about how I should have been more generous and more understanding. It was like Bizarro World, where up is down and right is wrong. Out of nowhere, it's like the whole house turned on me. Picture this. Dora, my stepsister, decides she's just going to take my car for a spin without even asking me. And wouldn't you know it, she ends up smashing it up. But here's the kicker. Somehow, in some crazy upside-down world, I end up being the bad guy in this story. My dad starts laying into me, calling me selfish and mean. That stung more than anything else I dealt with in that house. It was the final straw, really. The next morning, I just couldn't deal with it anymore. I packed up all my stuff and hightailed it back to my mom's place. Now, you'd think my dad might have shown a little bit of concern, right? Nope, he didn't seem to care one bit, even though he was getting all the updates about me from my mom. That was it, the last time I had any sort of contact with him or that part of the family. Fast forward 5 years, and I'm doing my thing in college, living my life. All that drama feels like it happened to someone else in another life. But here's where it gets totally bizarre. Dora, of all people, starts blowing up my phone with calls. Yeah, the same Dora I haven't heard from in forever. At first I was like, nope, not dealing with this, and kept ignoring her. But she just wouldn't let up. So finally, out of sheer curiosity, I pick up, and what do I hear? She's moving to my city, and get this, she needs a place to stay. Apparently, she found out I was here because my dad, who's hardly bothered to check in on me all these years, mentioned I was at college in this city. I was floored. After all this time, not a word, and now she's reaching out because she needs something. It was a lot to take in. Dora, yeah, the stepsister who hasn't bothered with me for ages, suddenly decides she needs a favor. She calls me up out of the blue, acting all sweet, expecting me to just open up my place for her like we're the best of buddies or something. When I ask her how long she's planning to crash, she's all vague about it, saying she doesn't really have a plan, just that she needs somewhere to land for a bit. Oh, and here's the kicker. She straight up tells me she's not going to pitch in for rent. Her reasoning? Since I've been managing the rent fine on my own, she figures out why should she bother chipping in. Can you believe that? The nerve of her thinking she could just move in rent-free, as if I was blown away by how entitled she sounded. I mean, who does that? So, I laid it out for her straight, told her there was no way I could let her stay under those conditions, and then I just hung up on her. Man, hanging up felt like hitting the winning shot in a game. Oh, and just so you know, the place I'm living in, it's a studio apartment. And here's the part one didn't mention before. My mom's the one who's been covering the rent for me. Update, today is my birthday. Yeah, that one special day in the year that's supposed to be all about celebrating me. But guess who decides to pop up out of the blue after a ghost act of 5 years? My dad. And hold on to your hats because he didn't call to drop a belated sorry for all the silent treatment, to catch up on my life, or even to toss a simple happy birthday my way. I'm betting my bottom dollar he doesn't even have a clue that today is my day. So why did he call, you ask? Oh, he wanted to grill me about why I wasn't playing hotel for Dara, and why I might have sounded less than thrilled to chat with her on the phone initially. Felt like a punch to the gut, not gonna lie, but I didn't let it keep me down. I bounced back pretty quickly and laid it out for him. How am I supposed to welcome someone into my space, especially when they don't want to pitch in or take any responsibility? That really got his gears grinding. If we were in the same room, I swear you'd see steam shooting out of his ears, just like in those cartoons, exactly how it used to be 5 years back. He went off on me, slinging words like selfish and unloving and accusing me of not having an ounce of respect or love for what he called a family. He even went as far as to say he'd disown me if I didn't let Dara move in. My response was cool as a cucumber. I told him to do what he felt he needed to because, to be honest, I've never really felt like I had a father figure in my life anyway. That kind of knocked the wind out of his sails, and he was silent for a hot minute before just hanging up on me. It's always baffled me, you know? Why am I always painted as the villain in his story while Dara, who isn't even his own flesh and blood, gets treated like she's royalty? So, with the drama out of the way, I decided to just kick back and make the best of the rest of my birthday. Ended up treating myself to an ice cream and movie marathon. But if I'm being totally honest, the whole ordeal kind of put a damp on my mood. Now, I'm sitting here wondering if maybe I went a little overboard. Should I have just played it cool and kept my mouth shut? What do you think? Did I overdo it with my reaction? Now on to the next story. Story 5. My ex wants me to raise her child that she had when she cheated on me. I, 30 male, am still fighting over this conflict with my ex-girlfriend, who I'll call Jane, 27, female, who ended up cheating on me after dating for 5 years. Jane and I were childhood friends for as long as I can remember. I never thought in a million years that she would do this to me or be the type of person who would cheat. I thought we had a great relationship with our normal ups and downs like any other couple. About a year ago, I was contacted by a girl I didn't know through social media. I don't usually respond to messages sent by people I don't know. But this girl, who I'll call Sam, sent me a message saying that Jane was cheating on me. Somehow she knew about Jane. I told her to please provide any proof she had. She ended up sending me screenshots of text messages between her friend, who I'll call Kevin, 28M, and Jane, sending explicit messages and talking about other sexual stuff that I can't describe here. The thing that shocked me the most was the text Jane had sent about her being pregnant. We were talking about having a baby at the time before I discovered the cheating, and we did initiate intimacy with protection, of course. I was fuming, to say the least. Sam had sent me a video of Kevin drunkenly admitting to sleeping with Jane without protection. Sam told me she had gotten a hold of Kevin's phone while he was out, and it was left unlocked. She wanted to let me know about this issue because she didn't want me to have false hopes of being the father to a kid that could possibly not be mine. I thanked her and asked how she found me. She said she had found Jane's social media account that was linked back to me in a post. Jane's social media is open, but she doesn't really use it much other than making posts about us or shopping accessories. I thanked Sam for letting me know and saved all the screenshots she had sent me along with the video. Jane was visiting her mother at the time, so I took the liberty of packing Jane's stuff and other important essentials she owns. Jane came home later that day looking all happy and jittery. I had to put on a fake smile when she delivered the news that she was pregnant and hugged me. I told her we should go out to celebrate and she agreed, not knowing what I had in store for her. I ended up driving her back to her mother's place. She was confused as to why we were there. I told her that she could drop the act already and that I know about the cheating. She looked like a deer in headlights, if I'm describing it correctly. Of course, she tried to deny it until I showed her all the screenshots that I got from Sam. Jane ended up breaking down and confessing that the cheating was, in fact, true. I asked how long the cheating had been going on, and Jane was a bit hysterical before telling me that she had been seeing Kevin behind my back for the last 2 years. I then asked if they had used protection when she was cheating on me with Kevin. She said no. I told Jane we were done and to never contact me again. She lost it and started crying even harder after I took out her belongings from the trunk of my car. She refused to get out of the vehicle and begged for another chance. Jane even told me that she would have an abortion if it meant staying with me. I got spooked hearing that. I didn't expect her to go so low with that option. I told her that whatever she decided would not undo the damage she had done to both of us. I ended up having to get Jane's mother involved, explained the situation to her, and showed her the evidence and conversation I had secretly recorded. Jane's mother apologized for her daughter's actions, and after a couple of minutes, Jane finally got out of my vehicle. I drove off without looking back or giving her a chance to speak to me again. I ended up breaking down myself after I got back home and couldn't eat or sleep right after what happened. This was a repeated cycle that lasted for a couple of months. It's been almost a year now, and I've nearly recovered from the incident, but the scars are still there. Just 2 weeks ago, Jane messaged me since the breakup and told me she wanted to get back together. I told her no straight up and blocked her. Then a few days ago, Jane showed up at my front door. Not gonna lie, she looked like a total mess when I saw her through the doorbell camera, and she was asking to speak to me. I didn't let her in, so I told her to say what she wanted. Jane said that Kevin ended up ghosting her soon after she gave birth to the baby, and they don't know where Kevin is. I told her that it was her problem to deal with and reminded her that Kevin was the guy she left me for. Her parents ended up kicking her out of their house after she gave birth, so she begged me to help her. Jane said that cheating on me was her biggest mistake and that she doesn't like being a single mom and taking care of a kid on her own. She asked me if I was willing to take care of her kid as if it was my own. I got pissed and told her to go and that, as far as I was concerned, there is no her and me anymore. I said that the kid she made while cheating on me was not my problem. I told her every ounce of love and respect I had for her died the moment I found out about the cheating. In case most of you aren't aware, I was the unfortunate victim of being stood up at my own birthday party when I was 8. Nobody showed up, and out of all of my friends, Jane was the only one who came. Jane left soon after. Now her friends are blasting me on social media for not stepping up and telling me that I'm not a real man after all that Jane has done for me and that I owe it to her. They also said that even though she made a mistake, she was there for me, so it would be horrible of me not to be there for her and the kid. What should I do regarding this matter? I feel bad that she was there for me growing up, but I can't forgive her for what she did. What should I do? We have reached the end. If you liked this video, please be sure to like and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this, and give us your thoughts about the stories in the comments section. Thank you and see you in the next video.